Smart pistons are smart. See, this here is a very simple version of a smart piston. If we place a block next to the piston here, it'll automatically push the block forward, and we can keep doing this. It'll keep pushing the block forward. And so we don't need a clock or anything pushing this piston. It'll just automatically go forward all on its own. Now there's a way to make this work a little bit better, and that's by making it a zero tick smart piston. So in this case, what we want to do is add a piston on top of it. So we've added a piston on top and we've brought the redstone around back. And now this will zero tick the piston. So what just happened? Well, normally when we place a block down and it powers the piston will push forward, the block will be gone, which means the piston will no longer be powered. Once it's pushed all the way forward, it'll realize that it's no longer powered and it'll retract back, which is fine. Now, if we have this piston on top, the block will get powered and it'll push forward. But then within the same tick, the redstone will power this piston, which, because it's above this piston, will update this piston. And this piston, because it's getting updated, will then see that since it's pushed the block out of the way, that it's no longer getting powered. And so it will immediately retract in the same game tick. Hence, it's a zero tick smart piston. And here we can use a sticky piston as well. And you can see that it's actually getting zero ticked because the sticky piston will drop its block. Normally, of course, the sticky piston won't drop its block. So you can see that it is actually indeed being zero ticked. It pushes and retracts in the same game tick. So one thing that these are really useful for is for concrete makers. I used this in the latest episode of my Manifold Minecraft series, where if you place down concrete powder, then this will push it along and you can convert it into concrete and then later blow it up in a TNT blast chamber. So you can just kind of sit here, hold right click, and of course that reached push limit, but you can push it into a TNT blast chamber, blow it up, and automatically convert concrete powder into concrete. So this is one example of a use that's very useful for. Of course, pushing anything around is very useful. If you have a tree farm and you need to push a stream of blocks, if you have a weird version of a cobblestone farm, sometimes you'll need to push a stream of blocks. So anytime you have a stream of blocks, you can push it with one of these. I think, well, I really am curious to see what happens. I have no idea what will happen here. What if we face them into each other? So what if we have two smart pistons facing into each other? Will they actually pass the blocks back and forth, or what will happen? I don't actually know. Okay, so it looks like maybe they're passing the block back and forth, but it appears as if they're only going one way. Let's see. What happens if we slow this down? Oh. So I wonder if we take a note block here. So this is powering the note block, you can hear if I turn the piston sounds all the way down. Interesting. So it is definitely registering is getting powered and depowered. Question is it every tick? Well, I think we can slow it down and see that. So setting the tick rate to 1 tick per second and timing this note block output, it seems like it's ticking every 3 seconds, which means every 3 ticks. So the pistons have to reset, and that's why the note block is only getting activated every 3 seconds or every 3 ticks. Okay, so they can pass it back and forth. What happens if we put this in a loop? Can we make a piston feed tape like this? Okay, so I have 4 smart pistons now set up in a little rectangle, and I think if this will work, once I place one block in here, this will push this whole line forward, which will push a block into here, which will make this push forward, which will push a block into here, which will make this push forward, which will make push a block into here, and so on and so forth. So let's see what happens, I guess. Yeah, so it's going around slowly but surely. If I break a block there, so based on testing this, it seems like each section will get pushed forward every 12 game ticks. So that makes sense. It takes, I guess, 3 ticks for the piston to sort of figure out what it's doing. So it'll push forward here, this will push forward here, this will push forward here, this will push forward here. And each of those takes 3 game ticks, which means it takes 12 ticks total. I thought because maybe these would 0 tick, this would be faster, but I guess not. So I did manage to get it going faster, but only by placing 2 extra blocks into the feed tape. So basically each piston is sort of updating twice as fast. In theory, is this as fast as it could go? So I think this is moving every 6 game ticks. Let's test that out. Yeah, so it's about 3 seconds here at 2 TPS. So I think it's every 6 game ticks. And you can see here as well that 2 pistons are firing at the same time. So opposite corners are firing at the same time. In theory, there may be some way to get, if you just provide blocks to it fast enough. Well, so yeah, this might be the fastest tape because you need 3 ticks for it to push and place, and then 3 ticks for another piston to push a block in front of it. So maybe there's a faster way that I'm not thinking of, but at least with Smart Piston setup, this seems to be the fastest that you can do it. Okay, that is that for now. I want to do some more experimentation with other kinds of Smart Pistons. So let's move over and start again from the drawing board. So I want to try doing a vertical Smart Piston. So let's see, when I place a block, I want it to power something. So maybe I can do a comparator. So I'm stuck here trying to figure out how to detect a block above a piston because because of QC, if you power the block above a piston, it'll also power that piston. And I guess I should say the problem is if you try to power the block above a piston, even if the block is not there, it'll also power the piston. So do we just need to, can we power the piston without updating it? Yeah. But then, okay, so we can power the piston without updating it. But then once this block is pushed up, we need to make the piston think it's not powered, like immediately. So I can already tell you that I definitely was not smart enough to come up with this. This is a design by Ilmango. So in order to do the vertical smart pistons, you need a bud on the side. Bud stands for block update detector. And this is his design for what he calls a super speed bud, which updates very, very quickly. And I basically just copied his design and it works. So if I place a block here, it pushes it up. I vaguely understand how it works. I don't really understand it, but you know, you kinda understand it. Hi, future me here. I was editing the video and I realized I should explain a little bit more about how this block update detector works, or at least specifically what it's doing here. So if I was to put a piston here and a block here, this block is actually powering this piston, but because I haven't updated the piston, meaning I haven't changed a block next to the piston, so directly next to it, it doesn't know it's being powered. So as soon as I break this block on top, that will update this piston and it will extend out. So the entire idea of the block update detector is here, this bottom piston is getting powered, but it doesn't know it yet. And when I place a block here, it'll update the piston and push out. Now, obviously, this looks a lot different from what's going on here. So the rest of everything going on here is entirely to return the block update detector back to its starting state so that it can detect another block. To do that quickly so that it will return to that state as soon as this piston's done firing, and also a little bit of redstone that will actually activate the piston, right? Because it's one thing to just detect the block is there, it's another thing to push it up when you do detect it. So this, as Ilmango calls it, super speed block update detector will detect the block there, fire, push the block up, and return to its starting state all within the time it takes to push that piston, so that you can just click and it's automatically pushed up. That's all. Just wanted to explain a little more about how this works exactly. So at the very least, we have something that will work. So I wonder if we got some sand, how it would. Okay, so it's just pushing it up. Okay, that's how I expected. It just bounces it. What if I do this? Huh. Okay, it can only support 2. If I try to add more, they just break off. So this gave me an idea. I wonder if I could design some sort of way to stack up falling blocks by, as soon as this piston pushes up, pushing a block in underneath. If I can push one underneath, would I be able to? I don't think using this system, but would I be able to time it in such a way that I could push up a sand block and then push in a sand block from the side? So here I have a comparator and a repeater with 2 ticks of delay, and it's not able to go over. But when I add 3 ticks of delay, then it pushes the block over. So theoretically, if I could get somewhere in between, that would be perfect. Okay, so I wasn't recording, but I think I just got it. So with this certain setup of delay, I'm able to push a block in just in time. So on one side we have comparator plus piston pushing a redstone block delay, whatever that is, and on the other side we have redstone torch and repeater on 1 tick, and this is enough to fit it in exactly. Wow, I was becoming increasingly convinced that this was not possible. Okay, so it also works for other types of falling blocks. Now, what can I do with this? Well, will it work without these? That's the question. Okay, it does work without those blocks there. Okay, so I managed to create now a smart version of this. So it'll automatically raise these up. Well, push it over and raise it up. So then, let's see, how far can we take this? So I think we've just created a interesting feed tape here. I put a smart piston up here, and this is sort of smart. So if I put one here, it's a falling block vertical piston feed tape. What is this machine useful for? I have no clue. But if you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and leave it a like. I think I'm all worn out on smart pistons for today. So go ahead and hit subscribe if you want to see any updates from me. Well, that is all. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.